So a warm welcome to the Mountain Studio. In the last video I made, I talked about the 22-day water fast that I did and the 4 lessons that I learned from that water fast. And in brief, those 4 lessons were that everything's easier when everything's in balance. Because I was so exhausted with the fast, I had no energy to do anything really but to scroll and rest, and not enough activity of things that I enjoyed to actually fill the day, and that made me think about food a lot. And so there's a lot that I learned around creating a balanced day, a balanced week, a balanced life. The second thing that I realized was, and it's not something I realized new, but I kind of emphasized how moving forward, the key really was moderation, and that moderation needs kind but firm boundaries. The third thing was to create meals as an occasion worth waiting for. And the fourth was to watch out for when enjoyment tips over into escapism, and when the nervous system's activated and trying to use food to calm down, which of course doesn't work, makes me more agitated. And so you get stuck in a cycle. So for this video, I just want to explore the first one about balance, but I want to state it like this, that creating a beautiful and nourishing life makes it a lot easier to not fall into mindless eating. And so since I stopped the fast and I've been thinking about this topic, I wanted to make a video just about this one. I'll make a video about the others in the future when I've really practiced and thought about them more. But what I've been thinking a lot is about this nourishment. You know, that often what we're looking for through food is a sense of nourishing and looking after the self, except that it's done in a way that actually backfires. It's a kind of a clumsy way of nourishing the self through food instead of through our actual life and activities, and through nourishing feelings. So this is kind of really the opposite vibe of the masculine approach to getting something done, which is to divide it into tasks and create plans and charts and measuring and tools and things like that. And that's very, very yang. But I really wanted to approach from the word of nourishing, which is a very feminine word. So the word nourishing, it's beautiful. It really makes me think of things like reading by a warm fire, you know, a cup of soup or a bowl of warm soup. It's things like meditating by a river, talking with friends, doing things that you love, doing meaningful things. And the masculine energy, it really reminds me of the Chariot tarot card, if you're familiar with these archetypes. So often for me, when I feel like, I'm slipping into overindulgence, I want to get into the chariot and take command of my life. And the chariot is really about that energy of willpower, determination, focus, you know, having triumph over the challenges, self-control. And I will be talking about that in the next video when we talk about boundaries. But I really wanted to start with the Empress card, which is one of my favorite cards, because this is really, she's the embodiment of the qualities of nourishing. It's about feminine energy, softness and creativity and abundance. It's about nurturing, nourishing, growth, fertility. It's very lush, very receptive, very life-giving. And this card's full of symbols of harvest, of wheat, of water, of softness and beauty. And I feel that sometimes, well, definitely for me, as I mentioned, I often, that panic of, oh my God, I'm out of control, and thinking that another pulled my socks up. And I think the fast in a way was what I was trying to do. And it really did show me that although it had its use, it's really not the answer. And one of the answers, I don't think there's just one simple approach to managing or having a healthy relationship with food, but definitely the meal plan, the discipline, the eating on time. This is not the only answer. It doesn't make up for not having a life that nourishes us. And so, nourishment can really look like finding out what kind of activities make me feel really at home with myself, make me feel good, make me feel like I enjoyed the day. And not just activities. I think it's also about creating a mindset with nourishing, good, warm towards myself feeling. So it's thoughts, words, actions, but that feminine, creative approach to creating and enjoying life. I think, and I mentioned in my last video and in an article I wrote about this topic on Substack. I'm on Substack now, if anybody's interested. So I mentioned the rat experiment, that when you put rats in a cage with nothing to do, they get addicted to cocaine. But if they're in a fun fair type environment where there's lots to do for them, even if the cocaine is on tap all the time, they don't get addicted. And I think that really does point to this aspect of having a rich life and really knowing myself and knowing what nourishes me. And yeah, that might be yoga for me, like sitting under a tree, walking in nature. But for someone else, it might be like thrift shopping or sports or running a business. It's really, really personal what kind of ticks your box. And particularly, I think important when we think about nourishing, things that allow us to contribute our unique gifts to the world. That's, I think, nourishes our soul with a sense of purpose. But one thing that I think many people notice is when they're on holiday, even though they might be eating a lot more and just enjoying themselves and really not thinking about food, often people kind of give themselves a pass. And often what surprises them when they come back is that even though they didn't think about food and they just ate what they want, they didn't gain any weight. And I think that's not just because they probably walked a lot, but I think it's something to do with when we're happy and not thinking about food and not making an issue of it. We digest better. We're more making decisions kind of from happiness and enjoying it. And I think that's really, really a key to life and food. And so another thing which is part of that sort of, I've got to pull my socks up and put myself on a restricted eating plan to take control, is also the idea of exercise. And even that word exercise, it's often got quite negative connotations. It's very much about, I think it's more of a masculine term, like it's exercise for a point, to get something, to get a result. It's a certain amount of exercise and a certain amount of leg days. We're getting into that measuring, that kind of masculine side. So I think another more nourishing feminine way to look after the body is think of it as movement. Like I don't really like the environment of gyms with all the machines and the loud music. It's not nourishing me at all. But put me in water, I can just swim for hours or walk for hours in a natural environment or in a city where I'm looking around. So I think it's also really good when we're thinking about a life that nourishes us, that the kind of movement that we choose to do is also nourishing. It's enjoying. It's not like punishment. Because also what happens when we're punishing ourselves with exercise is we're not enjoying it. Cortisol levels go up, and that also results in a hormone disruption, and we tend to hang on to extra weight. So again, I think it's not just the soul telling us to enjoy life, but the body is saying, I enjoy activity that nourishes my good feelings as well as moving the body. And so maybe the diet, if we're going on one, is to cut out all the I should, I have to, I must, because this is all based on fear of losing control. And instead of control, look at creating. Looking at creating a life that's nourishing and being the embodiment of this Venus energy, this Empress, being in a life that I love so much. That food becomes something that nourishes that life. The meals nourish, the activity of eating nourishes, and the energy that I'm giving the body so that I can do the things that make me enjoy that life. And something that I heard once from a friend, colleague, Brian Bacon, some of you would know him, but it really stood out in my mind that he said that in your life, there's always going to be some things that you don't enjoy. I think many of us would love to just sit on to a retreat by the river and meditate and read all day. But there is admin, there is domestic stuff. But he said that should only be 20% of your life. It shouldn't be more than that. And if it is, it's worth thinking about, can I simplify it? Can I delegate it? Can I forget about it? One thing I've noticed a lot with creative people, and I'll talk about this in the future when I would like to make a series on creativity, but I've often noticed that creative people have this gift of ignoring domestic chaos, but whereas sometimes I feel like I have to wait till everything's in order before I do the creative project. And so part of that, finding that balance of a life I enjoy and the stuff that I don't, could be just learning to ignore some things don't have to be done, and instead focus on what are the things that really give me energy. And this is some questions that I put to myself. I'm going through a bit of a process at the moment of really examining. I'm making a time log of how I use my time. I'm really trying to find an ideal routine so that I have that balance that I'm looking for. It's like my project at the moment, but this is some questions that I'm putting to myself. And if you want to think about it, like, what are those activities that make you feel most alive, most yourself, most nourished? And acknowledging maybe that, the thing that I kind of feel I should do, it's not doing anything for me, and don't be afraid to drop it. You can probably find the result or the feeling that you're really trying to achieve through something else. When do I feel most in the flow state? When I'm being my most creative and joyful. And another interesting question, if we were to take all metrics out of the equation related to money, how would you describe a successful, fulfilling, nourishing day? What would you like to be doing with your life, with your time, with your week? What is a life worth living? And how would you like to feel? I think this is so important to think about, because you can actually feel how you want, even if your life isn't perfect and if you haven't got your domestic responsibilities down to 20%. In the meantime, focus on enjoying it. Nourish yourself by just bringing as much joy as you can. And you can see that sometimes in people who are doing very dull jobs, but they do it with all their heart, and they make it something nourishing through their feelings. So how would I like to feel in my mind, in my body, in my soul, in my ideal life? And some experiments. So those are questions to think about, and these are some experiments that you could work on. So one is committing to doing one soul-sustaining activity every day for a week. So that could be really simple, like instead of just drinking your coffee by your computer when you're working, go out into your garden or sit on your balcony or just go to a nice location. It could be taking yourself on an artist date, if you've read The Artist's Way. She suggests every week taking yourself out to do something that nourishes your creativity, whether it's a museum, a kind of a antique shop, walk in nature, a picnic on a beach, whatever it does that brings you joy and shows you a different, some different scenery. So yeah, date yourself once a week. This is something that I haven't done yet because I've been working out all the ingredients before the pictures of it. But visualizing, drawing, making a collage, you can do that on Canva or a vision board of things that remind you of the things you love to do. Nourishing, meaningful, your well-curated life. I love this one, and that is to pause before moving from one scene of your life into the next and setting an intention of what you want to feel, what mood you want to be, what mindset, what state of being do you want to have. And this can be really good, especially if we have the tendency to just rush from one thing to another. If you're going to meet someone, have the intention to be present with them. If you go for a walk, have the intention of really being in the body and being present. Whatever it is, if you're focusing on work, be really concentrated or enjoy it, be relaxed. Whatever it is, we can enjoy our life a lot more when we actually choose to create certain feelings while we're doing the activity. Okay, the next one is to listen to the guided meditation, which will be at the end of this video. So this is just a meditation to be in the moment and to create good feelings no matter what's going on. And then the last experiment or kind of check-in is really just at the end of the day or the end of the week to look back and say, I've been focusing on really filling my time with things that I enjoy to do, and I'm trying to do everything that I do with a good feeling. Has it made a difference to my experience of eating in terms of quantity or quality or just the experience of eating? And I've been doing this for the last week or so, and I definitely feel like that need to overeat is just naturally going away. Like when I came off the fast, I definitely had a little bit of a bounce back. My digestion wasn't very happy with that, so it kind of put a natural control. Now I'm getting back to where I can eat more, but I'm finding that's not as attractive as working on the projects that I want to work on, or I think it works. So I'd recommend if you're struggling with your eating or you want to improve your eating, instead of like tackling it on with a plan, look at your whole life first and see where you can work on making your life more nourishing and see what effect that has. So in the next video, I will focus on the masculine side of this equation, which definitely has its place. But I think it's important for men and women to focus on, am I living a life worth living? So, there's that phrase that you hear sometimes, am I living to eat or am I eating in order to live? So making sure that we put food in its right place, not putting it in its place, but it will find its natural place, I think, when we focus on that feminine, nourishing, creative energy and directing that towards living a beautiful life. Thank you for listening. And of course, I'll encourage you to subscribe to the channel and press like and all that kind of stuff, because it does help the channel. It's been growing extremely slowly, but I do hope to put out much more regular content as part of my plan to have a more nourishing life. That includes for me definitely being creative. That does a lot in terms of balancing my life out. Thanks again for listening. Bye for now. Good luck. I take this precious time of my life now to be completely with myself. All thoughts of doing, of lists, of time itself melt away. as I bring my focus firmly on this very moment now. My thoughts slow down. They become like notes played on a piano, with more and more space between the notes, more presence, more silence, stillness between the notes. My breathing slows down. My muscles relax. My face relaxes. The muscle of the mind releases all tension. I feel so completely, utterly relaxed, calmly present with my inner self. I am not the racing mind. I am not the mind, but the mind is within me. It creates thoughts like bubbles on the surface of a lake that rise up, pop, and the surface returns to its natural state of stillness. In the deep inner stillness of my being, thoughts are not required. Time doesn't exist here. I have entered the timeless, thoughtless stillness of being. And from that stillness emerges a sweet feeling that all is well. That peace is my natural nature. That joy is bubbling up from the depth of my being. I am that joy, that peace, that alive, pure awareness. I realize that a good life is not just about activities that make me happy, but that happiness, joy, love, freedom. These are my natural nature. And in that awareness, I'm no longer chasing the illusion of a perfect life, but instead I feel the perfection of my being. I don't look for peace in a perfect environment, but I feel my inner peace, even in the busiest moments of life. I don't look for love in approval or popularity, but I feel myself as a well, as a fountain of endless capacity of love, of understanding, of acceptance for all beings who are all playing their parts according to their own beliefs. My inner soul wisdom is enabling me to move with grace amongst the slings and arrows of my week, my life. I feel balanced. I feel calm, aware. I feel powerful. It is these feelings and being able to access them now, in the moment. They are always here. They are always available. No matter what life is doing, I can nourish myself with the most beautiful, elevated, blessed feelings. And I know that every moment I am aware of myself, that is a beautiful moment. And this moment is all there is. With these beautiful feelings, I walk with peace. I talk with love. I eat with calmness. I create with joy. I interact with wisdom. I create my beautiful life with each beautiful feeling, beautiful thought, beautiful stillness. I am the source of life. I am the creator of my experience. I am. I am.